following is a paid program. The opinions expressed are not necessarily those of WNBU and Interbanks Media. Welcome to All Things Money with David Blain, a thoughtful and revealing discussion of actionable ideas and effective strategies to help you through the complex world of investing, taxes, and real estate. Now, with All Things Money, here's David Blain.
Hello and welcome to All Things Money. I'm your host for the show, David Blain. Thank you for joining us today, this Tuesday after Christmas. I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas and looking forward to the new year. New Year's Eve in 2012 at the end of this week. Thank you for taking a half hour out of your time to listen to us. We've got some good information for you today. A lot of you are listening on 94.1 FM WNBU. Others are watching on cable TV 10 in New Bern, and some are streaming on the internet at www.dlblain.com. We welcome everyone, whichever way you're listening to us. Please let us know your thoughts, your questions. Most of our ideas for the show come from you, our viewers and listeners, and we like to hear your feedback, what you think of the show, other topics that you may want to hear. So our phone number is 252-633-0107. Our email is allthingsmoney@dlblain.com. That's allthingsmoney@dlblain.com. And of course you can visit us on the web at www.dlblain.com. So for today's show we've got kind of an eclectic mix of topics. I may get into a few year-end tax items. I want to talk about some statistics to start off with. You'll notice one of the recurring themes of the show is to take what you hear in the media or out there in terms of investing and make sure that you do your own homework and really understand what you're looking at. And I'm going to use this as an example. The gross domestic product, this came out from the Bureau, the U.S. Bureau that computes the gross domestic product, came out back about December the 20th. It was their third release of the GDP numbers for the second quarter, or for the third quarter, excuse me. So I'll read it here. Real gross domestic product, the output of goods and services produced by labor and property located in the U.S., increased at an annual rate of 1.8% in the third quarter of 2011. That is, from the second quarter to the third quarter. And here's what I want you to listen to. According to the third estimate released by the Bureau of Economic Analysis, and in case you're wondering, in the second quarter, the real GDP increased by 1.3%. But my point in bringing this up is that the GDP estimate was originally released for the third quarter back in around October. And then it was subsequently revised in November, and then the third revision here in December. And as we look back, when it first came out, the advanced estimate of real GDP was a growth of 2.5% back in October. And then in November, they lowered it to 2%. And now in December, the third estimate, the third try, maybe the third try is the charm, as they say, is 1.8%. So this comes from the government statistics. So anyone that was investing or trying to make decisions back in October based on the advanced estimate said, wow, the economy is growing at 2.5%. But when the final numbers come out, it looks like it's going to be 1.8%. So when you researchers going back in history, 10 years from now, when they look back at 2011, the data series and the numbers that will show is the 1.8%. However, for a couple of months, people in the economy, investors, people with their models and things like that, were assuming that the economy grew 2.5%. And they do this with GDP numbers, inflation numbers, unemployment numbers, all these statistics that come out, that when they come out, the day they come out, the market goes haywire up or down, or people make all these buying and selling decisions based on these numbers. And the reality is number one, nobody knows what they are. I mean, just think of the U.S. economy the trillions of dollars in goods and services, and to think that the government has a way of accurately measuring that. As a side note, the GAO, Government Accountability Office, if you own a company and you get an audit, the CPA firm has to sign the audit letter that says, we stand behind this audit and we think there are no material misstatements. Well, the GAO refused to sign the federal government's audit last year. There was just too much unaccounted for money. They refused to sign it. Anyway, that's another thing. So when it comes to these numbers, GDP, unemployment, inflation like that, when you hear it announced for the first time, don't make a bunch of rash decisions or big investment decisions based on it, because more than likely they will be revised in the future. Well, they're always revised. In the GDP's case, they revise it 3 times. Just in case you were wondering, the increase in real GDP in the third quarter was positive contribution from non-residential fixed investment. That's company fixed investment, plant, things like that. Personal consumption expenditures, the consumer, exports, and federal government were the things that brought up the GDP, partially offset by negative contributions from inventory investment and state and local government spending. Imports, which are actually a subtraction in the calculation of GDP, increased. So just in case you were wondering, they're trying to measure all these things, the investment in plant and property by all the companies out there. I don't know about you, but nobody came knocking at my door and asked me how much I invested in my company in plant, property. Nobody asked me how much I spent on anything. So a lot of these numbers are estimates. They're based on different models and things like that, and there's just no way that they can be completely accurate in measuring them. So for next year, we see that the fourth quarter and 2011 annual numbers are scheduled to come out January 27th. So 27 days after the end of the year, they come out with their initial number that says how the economy grew in the fourth quarter as well as for the whole year. The second revision is scheduled to come out February 29th, and then the third revision comes out March 29th. So a full quarter after the end of the year will be the final number. But yet, in that period from January to the end of March, people will be making decisions based on that first number. So that's just another example of statistics and some of the numbers you just have to be very cautious about. The next topic I want to talk about is this is kind of an interesting piece that came out about college presidents and the millions that they make. Meanwhile, while they're raising their tuition, there's been quite an outcry over Wall Street. Well, I thought it would be nice to look at another big college and see how they're faring. Well, we're coming up on our first break. When we come back, we'll get into this article about college presidents and the millions of dollars that they make. So for All Things Money, I'm your host, David Blain.